Let's talk about corn, a crop that has been a staple in diets and industries worldwide for centuries. It's more than just a food source. It's a symbol of agricultural prowess and economic stability. Yes, corn, the backbone of modern civilization, found in everything from cereal to car fuel. Its versatility is unmatched, making it a crucial component in countless products we use daily. Recently, this humble crop became the center of an international drama so bizarre, it could only happen in 2025. A year marked by unexpected twists and turns in global trade. The headline, U.S. corn shipments worth billions, were rejected and sent back. This unprecedented move sent shockwaves through the agricultural community and beyond. The heartland felt the sting. Farmers who had relied on these exports faced uncertainty and financial strain as their crops sat unsold. This wasn't just a trade hiccup, it was a full-blown agricultural crisis with a side of political theater. The stakes were high and the world watched closely. Enter Donald Trump in his second term, responding with his trademark bluster and all-caps fury. His response was as dramatic as the situation itself, promising swift action. As American farmers stared at overflowing silos, Canada suddenly became the world's corn darling. Their corn, praised for its quality, became the new gold standard. Canadian corn was hailed as the purest, with buyers lining up. The shift in demand was swift and significant, altering the landscape of global agriculture. The global market was flipped and everyone wanted to know, how did this happen? Analysts scrambled to understand the sudden change in fortunes. Tonight, we dive into why America's golden crop was shunned, Trump's reaction, and Canada's sudden rise. The story is as complex as it is fascinating. We'll explore what this means for the future, a temporary blip or a permanent shift in agriculture. The implications could be far-reaching, affecting policies and practices worldwide. Buckle up, things are about to get corny. The twists and turns of this saga promise to keep you on the edge of your seat. And yes, that might not be the last corn pun. Humor aside, the situation is serious with real-world consequences. The stakes, billions of dollars, global supply chains, and the pride of two nations. The outcome could redefine international trade relations. Let's peel back the husk and see what's really going on. The truth behind the headlines is both surprising and enlightening. Welcome to the Great Corn Kerfuffle, a tale of intrigue, competition, and the ever-evolving world of agriculture. Why did the world suddenly reject American corn? The official reason: unapproved GMOs, specifically the Agrimax 9000 strain, fast-tracked under Trump's Freedom to Farm initiative. Europe, always wary of GMOs, balked at the lack of rigorous testing. The US said, "Trust us," but that didn't fly. Health fears and sensational headlines about Frankencorn spread fast. But it wasn't just science. Politics played a huge role. Years of trade wars and America first left allies eager for payback. The corn ban became a diplomatic weapon, a way to hit the US where it hurt. After Europe's rejection, Japan and South Korea quickly followed, fearing political fallout. Suddenly, US corn faced a near-global embargo. Ships were turned around mid-ocean. The message, "Your corn isn't welcome here." The American corn industry was left in shock. The White House reaction? Explosive. As news of the international corn ban broke, the administration scrambled to respond, with tension thick in the air and aides rushing through the halls. Trump unleashed a barrage of late-night posts, calling the ban a total hoax and witch hunt. His tweets came fast and furious, each one more defiant than the last, as he accused his critics of conspiring against American farmers. He declared U.S. corn the best in the world, boasting about its quality and tradition, and threatened vague trade retaliation against any country daring to reject it. He insisted that American corn was unmatched, a symbol of national pride. At a press conference flanked by grim-faced farmers, he blamed foreign countries for disrespecting America, and the deep state for weak regulations. He painted a picture of betrayal, vowing to stand up for rural America. He promised to fire regulators and replace them with patriots, claiming only true Americans could protect the nation's interests. The crowd cheered, but uncertainty lingered. The real issue, his own administration's deregulation, was ignored. No mention was made of the policies that had led to the crisis, as blame was shifted elsewhere. Trump's bluster played well in the Farm Belt, where frustration was high, but did nothing to solve the crisis. Farmers listened, hoping for answers, but found only rhetoric. Meanwhile, rejected corn piled up at ports, and international buyers looked north for alternatives. leaving American harvests stranded and unsold. The spectacle was pure political theater, energizing his base but leaving farmers stranded, their livelihoods hanging in the balance as the world watched. The world had moved on, forging new deals and partnerships, leaving the US isolated in the global market. The US was left shouting into the void. The corn crisis deepened, with fields lying fallow and equipment rusting in the sun, and Canada seized the moment, stepping in to fill the gap as American farmers watched their northern neighbors thrive. While the US floundered, Canada thrived. Canada's cautious approach to GMOs, no fast-track strains, suddenly paid off. Pure Canadian corn became a global buzzword, symbolizing safety and trust. Canadian farmers, long criticized for their slow, strict methods, now reaped the rewards. The government and grain commissions launched a global charm offensive armed with data and transparency. No need to badmouth the US, Canada simply offered what buyers wanted: reliability. Their strategy was simple. We have the corn you want, and we can prove it. Years of careful policy turned into a windfall. Canada wasn't just selling corn, it was selling trust. In global trade, trust is everything. With US corn off the table, buyers rushed to Canada. The EU signed a $15 billion multi-year deal, cementing Canada as its main supplier. Japan and South Korea followed, praising Canada's transparency and safety. Even China quietly redirected billions to Canadian suppliers. In months, Canada locked in over $30 billion in new export deals. Ports buzzed with activity, and the government invested in infrastructure and research. Prime Minister Trudeau called it a victory for cooperation over confrontation. The windfall transformed rural communities and set Canada up for long-term dominance. Canada's corn boom was just beginning. The trade shift created two stark realities. In the US Midwest, farmers faced disaster, silos overflowed, prices crashed, and crops rotted. Bankruptcies spiked and trust in government evaporated. The freedom to farm promise had become a nightmare. Meanwhile, Canadian farmers enjoyed a historic boom. Prices soared, land values jumped, and rural communities thrived. Equipment dealers, seed companies, and local businesses flourished. The contrast was dramatic. American despair, Canadian euphoria. One nation's crisis became another's golden opportunity. The agricultural map of North America was redrawn overnight. The future belonged to the cautious. To truly understand the impact of these changes, I set out to meet the people at the heart of it all, the farmers themselves. I spoke to two farmers whose lives had been shaped in very different ways by the same global forces. In Iowa, Dave Jensen stood beside a towering silo filled with corn he couldn't sell. "We did what they told us. Now I've got 1 million bushels nobody wants," he said, his voice heavy with frustration. Years of hard work and trust in the system had left him with a harvest that had nowhere to go. Town halls across the Midwest echoed with fear, anger, and confusion. "We feel abandoned. The president yells, but it doesn't move my corn," one farmer declared, capturing the sense of betrayal that had settled over the community. The uncertainty was palpable, and hope seemed in short supply. Dave's story was not unique. Across the Midwest, farmers shared tales of broken trust and uncertain futures. Generations of tradition were suddenly at risk, and the sense of loss ran deep. Meanwhile, in Quebec, Marie Dubois's farm was alive with the hum of new equipment and a spirit of optimism. Her fields were thriving, and her family looked to the future with hope. "We followed the rules, kept records, used approved seeds. Now our corn is premium," Marie explained, pride evident in her voice. Years of diligence and careful planning were finally paying off. The boom had revitalized her entire community. New jobs were created, diners were packed, and there was a renewed sense of hope for the next generation. The success was felt far beyond her own fields. "We didn't ask for this, but we were ready. Our way has finally been proven right," she said, her confidence a stark contrast to the anxiety in Iowa. The contrast between the two countries was striking. American frustration and disappointment on one side, Canadian pride and prosperity on the other. The same crop, but two very different realities. One farmer's loss had become another's windfall. The shift in fortune was dramatic, and it was impossible to ignore the human cost behind the headlines. For these farmers, the changes were deeply personal, not just economic statistics. Their livelihoods, identities, and communities were all on the line. Communities across North America were being transformed. Some were thriving, while others struggled to survive. The divide was growing, reshaping the rural landscape. The lesson was clear: trust and diligence matter, but so do adaptability and timing. The future would belong to those who could weather change and seize new opportunities. The future of farming had changed forever, with technology and global markets rewriting the rules of success. And as these stories unfolded, the world was watching, learning, judging, and waiting to see what would happen next. Economists offered a blunt assessment. Dr. Eleanor Vance of Guelph called it market punishment for regulatory divergence. The US gambled on deregulation, misreading global demand for trust and safety. Canada's export-oriented, flexible approach was built for moments like this. Dr. Frank Miller of Iowa State called it a catastrophic policy failure. Deregulation ignored the realities of international trade, where trust is everything. The US reputation as a reliable supplier was shattered. Recovery would take years, maybe a decade. The fallout would ripple through banks, equipment makers, and rural economies. To regain access, the US would have to backtrack and adopt the very standards it rejected. It was a costly, humiliating retreat. Canada, meanwhile, was emboldened. The corn world had changed, perhaps for good. What's next? For the US, the road is tough. Dealing with surplus and economic fallout is just the start. Policy reversal, banning agri-max and realigning standards, will be slow and painful. Even then, regaining trust and market share will be an uphill battle. Buyers have new supply chains and little reason to switch back. The US may have to accept a smaller, less trusted role. For Canada, the future is bright, if it maintains its standards and relationships. The lesson in global trade: trust and cooperation beat bluster and size. The corn crisis of 2025 has redrawn the map. Whether the shift is permanent remains to be seen. For now, the US navigates a maze of its own making. Canada enjoys the view from the top of the stalk, and that's how the cornball crumbles.